Most EV owners have a quiet rule they follow. Use fast charging only when you have to. It's not written in the manual, it's not always stated outright, but it shows up in conversations, forums, and buying advice. Fast charging is treated as something you should limit, acceptable on road trips, questionable in everyday use. The concern underneath that rule is simple. If you repeatedly fast charge, are you quietly shortening the life of your battery? That's the real question, not whether fast charging sounds aggressive, not whether it feels intense, but whether it meaningfully changes how your battery will age over the years you plan on the car. To answer that, we have to look past labels and into mechanism. Lithium-ion batteries degrade under specific conditions. The main variables are temperature, voltage, and time. Total energy moved through the pack matters too, but it's shaped by those other conditions. Let's start with temperature. Heat accelerates chemical reactions, and inside a battery cell, side reactions slowly consume active lithium and increase internal resistance. Those reactions happen at all temperatures, but they occur more quickly when the battery is hot. This is one reason fast charging developed its reputation. High charging power can generate heat. If you force high current into a battery without adequate cooling, temperatures rise and degradation can accelerate. That was a legitimate limitation in some early EV designs that did not have the complex active thermal management systems that modern packs rely on. But modern EVs are built differently. Battery packs are liquid cooled. The system monitors cell temperatures continuously, and so many vehicles precondition the pack before you arrive at the fast charger. Charging power is reduced automatically if thermal thresholds are approached, and so the vehicle is not blindly accepting maximum power, it is adjusting power based on internal conditions. So while fast charging involves higher power, it does not automatically mean there's uncontrolled heat in a modern system. The second variable is voltage. Lithium-ion cells experience more chemical strain at very high states of charge. As the battery approaches full, cell voltage rises. At higher voltages, the positive electrode sits in a more reactive state, and side reactions that slowly consume lithium occur more readily. Over longer periods, that contributes to capacity loss. This is one reason many manufacturers recommend daily charging limits below 100% for routine use. On a road trip, you arrive with a low state of charge. The car charges rapidly through the middle of the pack, and as the battery fills, the charging rate tapers significantly. Most drivers unplug around 70 to 80% and then they continue driving. That means the battery spends relatively little time at maximum voltage during a fast charging session. By contrast, a vehicle that charges to 100% overnight and then remains there for several hours before departure is spending extended time at an elevated cell voltage. From a degradation standpoint, sustained high voltage dwell can matter more than a brief high power session through the middle of the pack. The third variable is time itself. Batteries age even when they're not being actively charged or discharged. This is called calendar aging. Chemical reactions inside the cells continue slowly over time regardless of usage. You can see a simple version of this in a traditional 12-volt battery in a gasoline car. Even if the car is driven gently and rarely deep cycled, the battery still weakens after a few years, so time alone moves the chemistry forward. High voltage lithium-ion packs are engineered very differently, but the principle that chemistry continues to evolve over time still applies. When degradation is observed, it is easy to attribute it to something visible like fast charging. Calendar aging, by contrast, is gradual and it's less obvious, but it's always present in the background. Now, consider total energy throughput. Every time energy flows in and out of the pack, a small amount of wear occurs, but that wear depends heavily on temperature, depth of discharge, and time spent at high voltage. Imagine two drivers who each move 30,000 kilowatt hours through their battery pack over several years. One driver occasionally uses DC fast charging during travel, but usually operates between 20 and 80% state of charge. The other rarely fast charges, but frequently charges to 100% and leaves the vehicle parked in high ambient heat. It is not clear that the first battery would degrade faster simply because some sessions were high power. In many cases, overall exposure to heat and sustained voltage would be the stronger predictors of capacity loss. There is also another engineering detail worth noting. It's the charging curve. When you connect to a high-power DC charger, the vehicle may initially accept a high rate, but as the state of charge increases, the charging power tapers significantly. That taper is deliberate because it reduces stress as cell voltage rises and internal resistance increases. The system is designed to avoid pushing maximum power where the chemistry is most sensitive. They build in buffer capacity at the top and bottom of the pack, and they limit usable voltage windows. And charging behavior is software controlled to protect longevity. And in the end, none of this means fast charging has zero impact. Higher charging rates can increase internal heating and mechanical strain with electrode materials, particularly if repeated in high ambient temperatures. Vehicles that rely heavily on fast charging in very hot climates can show somewhat higher degradation. But the key question is scale, or how much, because large-scale fleet studies across tens of thousands of vehicles generally show average capacity loss in the range of roughly 1 to 3% per year, with variation by climate and usage. High temperatures consistently correlate with faster degradation, so heavy fast charging use can correlate with slightly higher capacity loss compared to primary level 2 charging, but the differences are typically measured in single-digit percentage points over many years rather than abrupt failure. It's also important to acknowledge that not everyone has home charging, so urban drivers and apartment dwellers may rely on public DC fast charging as a primary energy source. For those drivers, the relevant question isn't whether fast charging is ideal in theory, it's whether regular fast charging meaningfully shortens the practical lifespan of the battery. Current field data suggests that while heavy fast charging use can modestly increase degradation, modern battery systems are engineered to tolerate it within the warranty horizon and well beyond typical ownership cycles. The visual intensity of a fast charging session doesn't necessarily correspond to the internal stress on the pack. What ultimately shapes long-term battery health is the combination of temperature exposure, state of charge range, dwell time at high voltage, and total age. Over years of ownership, gradual environmental exposure and repeated high voltage dwell tend to matter more than isolated high power events. Fast charging is not outside the design envelope of the vehicle. In fact, it is part of the system that the battery was made to handle. If you're thinking about longevity in practical terms, the question isn't, is fast charging bad? The better question is, in the way I actually use this car, does fast charging meaningfully change the outcome? For most drivers and modern EVs, it plays a role, but rarely the dominant one. This is Wrench and Reason, where we explain how modern cars actually work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.